Hey, what's up, everyone? So when I say the word symphony, what do you picture? Probably some, old school music from way back when, something you'd only hear in a stuffy concert hall, right? Well, what if I told you to think of the symphony less like a museum piece and more like a 300-year-old video game? One that's been getting insane updates, new characters, and game-changing expansion packs since day one. Let's dive into how it totally leveled up.
Okay, think about the last epic movie you watched. You know that moment? The big battle scene, or the super emotional part, and the music just swells up and boom, goosebumps. That feeling, that raw power, that's what we're talking about today. Because the symphony, it's the original epic soundtrack, designed specifically to hit you right in the feels.
All right, so let's rewind all the way to the beginning. We're talking level 1, the symphony's origin story. And you might be surprised to hear that before it became the main event, the symphony was basically just loading screen music.
No, seriously, the very first symphonies, or sinfonias as they were called back in Italy, were literally just short instrumental pieces to get the audience hyped for the opera to start. Think of it like the opening cutscene in a game. Its only job was to get everybody settled down and ready for the main action.
And the structure was super simple, almost like a basic combo move in a fighting game. It went fast and energetic, then a slow and more chill middle part, and then bam, another fast section to wrap it all up. Predictable? Yeah, but it absolutely works to get the energy up in the room.
But then, composers started experimenting. A group in a German city called Mannheim came up with this awesome new special move, the Mannheim crescendo. The whole orchestra would start playing super quietly and then just get louder and louder and louder. You gotta remember, audiences back then were used to music just staying at one volume. So this was a mind-blowing volume power-up that made the music feel incredibly intense and exciting.
Okay, so let's jump to level 2. This is the classical era, where a couple of legendary composers showed up and basically wrote the official rulebook for the whole symphony game. You've probably heard of them, Haydn and Mozart.
So you can think of Haydn as the architect. They call him the father of the symphony for a reason. He perfected that classic four-part structure that became the standard for ever. He built the foundation, and he was prolific, writing over 100 of them. And then you've got Mozart, the artist. He took that solid structure from Haydn and just painted it with these unforgettable melodies and so much deep emotion. Oh, and get this, the guy wrote his first symphony when he was only 8 years old. Just unreal.
All right, so the rules are set, the game is super popular, and then a new player logs on and decides to just flip the whole table over. Welcome to level 3, where Ludwig van Beethoven drops a game-changing expansion pack that shatters all the rules.
See, before Beethoven, symphonies were mostly, nice. They were polite entertainment for fancy people. Beethoven was not interested in that. He grabbed the symphony by the collar and turned it into this huge, powerful, emotional statement. His pieces were way longer, way more intense, and they were about big ideas: struggle, freedom, heroism. This was music with a mission.
And all of his radical ideas, all his rule-breaking, it all culminated in his final, ultimate, boss-level symphony, the Ninth.
I can't overstate how much he changed the game with this one. For centuries, there was one unbreakable rule: symphonies are for instruments. Period. No singing. And Beethoven was just like, nah. In the final part of his Ninth Symphony, he brings in an entire choir of singers. Just imagine you've been playing a single-player game your whole life, and then in the final level, it suddenly becomes a massive online multiplayer experience. That's how shocking this was. He broke the biggest rule in the book and proved a symphony could be whatever he wanted it to be.
So, after Beethoven, the floodgates were wide open. We're now in level 4, the Romantic era. This is where composers basically decided to expand the world map. They started telling these huge, epic stories and building orchestras that were bigger and louder than anything anyone had ever heard before.
And you can literally see how the orchestra itself leveled up. Back in Haydn's day, you had a small squad of musicians. By Beethoven's time, it was more like a full platoon. But fast forward to the early 1900s with composers like Gustav Mahler, and you had what was basically an entire army on stage. The sound was just massive.
Now, with these giant orchestras, composers started making what's called program music. Think of it like a story-driven RPG. The music literally follows a plot. Different melodies might represent different characters or ideas, and the orchestra might even imitate sounds from the real world, like a thunderstorm brewing or birds chirping, all to guide you through the story.
And this whole idea really hit its peak with Gustav Mahler. His philosophy is summed up perfectly in this quote: "A symphony must be like the world. It must contain everything." And he wasn't kidding. His symphonies are these gigantic, open-world experiences. They've got everything: huge, sweeping themes, simple little folk songs, military marches, and he even famously used cowbells to make you feel like you're way up in the mountains. He wanted to cram the whole human experience into his music.
So where does that bring us today? Let's jump to the final level, the symphony now. Because in the 20th and 21st centuries, the game is getting remixed, modded, and hacked by composers all over the globe.
Yeah. After 100 years of just getting bigger and bigger, some composers started to go in the completely opposite direction. They were like indie game developers, trying out wild new mechanics. Some started using folk tunes from their own countries to create a unique sound. Others used really sharp, clashing, almost shocking sounds. Some even started adding electronic instruments into the mix. At this point, the rulebook was pretty much thrown out the window.
And that leads us right up to today. The symphony is absolutely still evolving. Composers now are inspired by literally everything: the epic movie scores we love, rhythms from all over the world, and even major social causes and current events. It's living proof that this game is still being played and new updates are dropping all the time.
So what's the ultimate takeaway here? The symphony totally leveled up. It went from being simple intro music to becoming one of the most powerful, adaptable, and epic forms of storytelling we've ever created. It's not some dusty relic, it's a living, breathing art form that is always changing to show us what the world looks and sounds like right now.
And that leaves me with one final thought for you to chew on. After seeing how all these composers use music to tell incredible stories about heroes, nature, and, well, everything, if you had to write a symphony about your life, your story, your experiences, what would it sound like?